Hi everyone, Dave Clausen here. Wanted to bring you the third video for the Parent-Based Interventions project. Now as we start this video off, I want you guys to just put yourself in the shoes of a parent that is dropping their student off at the residence halls on move-in day. So keep that in mind as we move forward. So let's get this thing started.
New day and the new year, shout it out loud, sing with the crowd, celebrate 'cause good things are coming, new opportunities are at the door. Hold your head up, drop the sorrow, no regrets now for tomorrow. It's a new chance for a new life.
As you can see, there's a lot of fun and exciting things going on move-in day. And you finally finished lugging that mini fridge and that futon up the stairs, since the elevator line was just ridiculously long. But now it's time to say goodbye. Some people will be sad, some will be excited, and others will be happy. But with so much emotion in the air, you all know what that means.
Get to the chopper!
But really, we all know the term helicopter parent. Many of us have seen it or even dealt with it. But what if there was a way to guide or channel the parents? Almost become teammates with them. I like to call it working with what you got. I'm sure many of you have heard that parents' influence decreases when the student goes to college. However, that's old school. But what about peer influence and how it goes up once a student gets to college? Just kidding. That one's actually still true. Had to make sure you're still paying attention. Here's some food for thought. What if parental influence doesn't decrease? Now there's a large body of research that indicates that parents still significantly influence students' behavioral decisions regarding alcohol, even after they've transitioned to college. Now, can parental influence affect the peer influence as well? Are these separate, or can the parent's influence take on the peer influence? Just take a second to think about that. How would it work? And what would that look like? Let's take a flashback back to the last video where we talked about the direct effects model. You've got your drinking beliefs, binge drinking tendencies, and your binge drinking consequences. Both of those have a direct effect on the binge drinking consequences. And if you'll remember, we want to focus the parent-based interventions on the drinking beliefs. When you take parents with less approving personal attitudes, increased parental awareness and monitoring, the student takes over the values and beliefs of the parent as his or her own. That student is then motivated internally rather than by external influences. Now let's talk about parental influence. What are the ways parents influence their students? One way is through parental monitoring, or knowledge. It is often referred to just as monitoring. What that really means is the parent's knowledge of their student's drinking behavior, not the activities they do to obtain that information. So no GPS tracking or body cameras or following your students around. Another way is through parental approval or even disapproval. That one's pretty straightforward. The next one would be through parental conflict. And what that means is the more the parents fight with each other, the less they're going to be monitoring their children's drinking behavior. Now, parental conflict influences parental monitoring. But what about parental monitoring and parental approval? Are those connected? What if you don't know about the high-risk drinking behaviors? What does lower monitoring communicate to the student? How does a student know if a parent disapproves of their drinking? Through alcohol-specific communication. Now, research indicates that parental communication of zero tolerance or complete disapproval was associated with the safest student drinking behaviors regarding both weekend drinking and the likelihood of experiencing alcohol-related consequences. What are some other ways parents can influence their children? Well, there's verbal communication. Pretty sure I already covered that one. Next is conflictual independence. Wait, did I just make up a word? Just kidding. What this means is having a conflict-free relationship with a child, where they can share their thoughts and feelings. Have an adult conversation. Next is parental behavior, or modeling. And if you've seen the movie Role Models, well, this one's pretty clear as well. When you take all these together, it really just seems like the overall parenting style. What about perceived injunctive norms? We talk about social norms and all of that in relation to students, but what about the parents? Parents often look to other parents for guidance. Is this okay? And based on the research, parents overestimate the other parent's approval of alcohol use by their respective child. This in turn influences their own beliefs and behaviors about their own child's drinking. I like to call this keeping up with the Joneses. They're okay with Junior occasionally drinking on the weekends. So I guess maybe I should be okay with Johnny doing it too. That line, guess I should be okay with Johnny doing it too. That brings us right back to parental approval. Must be important, right? But what are some ways parents indirectly communicate approval or disapproval to their children? Something like, not in my house. If you do go out drinking, don't drive. Call me, I'll come pick you up. Or just avoiding talking about it altogether. But that brings us right back to alcohol-specific communication. Pretty sure you get the point, so let's just move on. I wanted to end this video with some research that I found interesting. 32% of students perceived that their mothers somewhat or strongly approve of them drinking occasionally. 34% perceive that their fathers somewhat or strongly approve of them drinking occasionally. And 5% perceived that their mothers somewhat or strongly approve of them drinking regularly, with 7% believing that their fathers somewhat or strongly approve of them drinking regularly as well. The more perceived approval from their parents, the more likely they were to report having experienced at least one negative consequence. So now, just a quick summary of the highlights. Parental monitoring and knowledge, parental approval and disapproval, then alcohol-specific communication. All things you want to remember when looking into a parent-based intervention. That concludes this video, and it will lead us into creating the final parent-based intervention toolkit for you to use. You'll see a short 2-question survey next week sent out over our listserv. So if you can spare just 2 minutes, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and stay tuned for the survey.